All right, let's start this pony show. Right. All right, everybody. My name's, as you can tell from the slides, is Adam John. I'm not a hacker. I am a security professional who has grown up in the IT field in healthcare. And I'm just kind of curious, how many people here are in healthcare, hardcore? Well, okay. So, how many people are mostly hospitals? 1, 2. All right, insurance agencies. All right, feds. Okay, that did not add up. So that's gonna. What was going on for the ride there? All right, so and I'm just curious, how many people came here because I spelled protocol completely wrong? All right, that's actually has something to do with the talk. It was kind of a hook to get people in here, but as all annoying radio jocks will tell you, I'll tell you what that's about at the end of the show. And so, and I have new technology that's I'm beta testing here, so hopefully I won't totally mess it up. So, usual slide, chart, what we're going to talk about. The health systems, some things about them are the same, but then again, what's different, and what, are some things that you can use to your advantage, and what are some things that are going to be pitfalls to this, all right? So this is not a 101 track class, but if you read the synopsis, I said 101 because really healthcare security is not exactly the same as any other profession that I've ever seen in my life. And I mean, I've dealt with NSA spooks, I've dealt with DOD, I've dealt in many agents, many different types of corporate organizations, from steel mills to toy companies, and I have never seen anything as messed up in my life as healthcare in the United States. And yeah, and so it takes a special personality. You must like pain, but it's also, like I said, like I've been told so many times before, it's a challenge, and you got to be able to accept risk and accept understanding. But to be next to these people you're working with actually can be very rewarding. And that's why I have, focused on this throughout my career. And hopefully, if you're not in it now and you want to go into this, hopefully this will be a nice guide to you. Always, we're here to speak, but we're also mentors, and we're also here to ask you questions. So, like I said, nobody here is an absolute authority, but everyone here can at least lend an ear or lend an answer if we have it. So. Hopefully this is a gateway for them. So, the obligatory credibility slide. 7 years at one of the largest medical research institutions on the earth. I come from Maryland, so you guys can do the math if you want to. I've been working for the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid for over 6 years, and have had the pleasure of helping them and fixing some of their stuff. And right now I work as a contractor for that organization to help their vendors, their own other contractors, fix their stuff. So that's kind of an interesting task I'm on right now. I also have dealt with the payer community. With payer community, if you're not in healthcare, there's provider, payer, and federal. State, I won't even go in. Don't even ask me, because you don't want to go there. Trust me. If you do go there, we'll have a crying session later. They have no money. Don't even try. And so, provider is provide care. Payer, insurance company. They're the ones who give you the money. And federal is Medicare, Medicaid. And I have all those acronyms behind my name that everybody else here probably does have. I've worked in those acronyms. If you want to ask what they're about, I'll tell you later. And for, snarky or smart-ass comments, please check my Twitter. I'm full of them and not much else. So everyone in this country, when you talk to them, usually when I am speaking engagements, and they talk about healthcare, and it's one thing. It's right. And you see lots in this healthcare.gov debacle that's gone on with the ACA and everything like that. Nobody knows what the issue is. Everyone merges the three types of healthcare together, and it's a nightmare. And it takes actually several years in the industry to actually kind of realize the segregation between two. And it's not just federal and insurance company or insurance company and provider. They all intertwine, and they do. I worked at a research hospital, so that had an insurance company part of it. And there's a three-headed monster. They didn't talk to each other. They each had specific security requirements for each. And the worst one was research, which was the federal side. Imagine that. You wouldn't think that. I have the biggest cog here is federal, and that's because what does federal do? It gives you regulations. It gives you a ton of money, grants. Hospitals are forever starved for money, so they go for grants. And so that's one thing to think of. So the federal side really does have a lot of influence on the rest of the community. And pay, of course, because, without money, you're not getting any care. And what's the same? All right. No one says they have money. Everyone has a lot of paperwork and a lot of regulations to do. All right. The average insurance claim that your doctor, your PCP has to fill out costs them $46 to do. You know how much they get paid for your visit? Take a wild guess. 12? Oh, no, higher than that. Out of zero, about $120. So, they're not making a lot of money and after that they have to pay more people for time, pay for facilities. There's a big reason why PCPs are, falling out of the American healthcare market because they just can't afford to live there. I guarantee you, if you go see a PCP that's in their 30s, look at the parking lot. The Beamer isn't theirs; it's their nurses. All right, they're driving a 10-year-old Corolla they had in med school. All right, with a duct tape bumper. All right, and even in I've seen it in hospitals. The doctors don't make any money because of these huge bills they have, $300,000 in medical bills, not medical, but school bills until they're in their 40s. So there's a lot of pressure on them, and frankly, they're getting to the point they don't care. So that's your insight into the doctor world, why there's less doctors. FUD, everyone knows FUD. There's FUD aplenty. All right. Most health organizations I know, they do security by vendor. All right. I have every tool imaginable. I have, antivirus by one company. I have NIDS by another company. I have 4 different firewall vendors. I have a SIM that I bought from this company that they haven't set up yet. We bought it 3 years ago. That's actually not bad. I've seen that. And they buy all these tools, and they think it's a panacea. There's a insurance company I know up in Massachusetts, and I respect the CISO very much, but he has a staff of 4, and he affords a 3rd FTE on watching the SIM. And it's ArcSight, and I'm not bashing ArcSight whatsoever, but this is a 40,000 node network. He's relying on his correlation rules, and how many correlation rules does he have? 20. Everyone's relying on technology and it just isn't there. And then there's a lot of confusion. HIPAA, how many people deal with HIPAA in their lives? All right. What happens, all right, business associates, are they covered by HIPAA? All right, what if they don't sign a BAA? Are they covered by HIPAA? All right. What if they say in a BAA that they are not covered by HIPAA? Doesn't matter. Oh, that's very good. A lot of lawyers will try to lawyer the way out of doing HIPAA. And recently, OCR I don't know if those following it, they're doing desk audit right now. They just fined Presby about $4.8 million, Presby in Columbia. They will be nailing any major university hospital that they can this year. They didn't say that to a man, but they're pretty much saying, yeah, that's what we're going for. Because they're trying to set a point. They're trying to set a precedent. And they're also going to go after the big blues and, some of the other bigger insurance companies because they want, because community hospitals have no money. I'm amazed they can pay the light bills. And so they're going to, set the precedent. So if you're one of those organizations, I do apologize, and I do warn you ahead of time. Eve Adams is always looking for talented staff. if you're looking for immediate change. But yeah, a lot of people don't get it, and especially doctors. You're going to get a lot of people who are very intelligent execs. They're good. They've gone to Harvard. They've gone to these big name schools. They've been to business school. They've been to law school, and they read it and they totally miss the information. So it's an issue, and you have to kindly push them through it. All right, so audience participation time. Who wants to come up? I can't leave this microphone, or else I'll get shot. Come on. I don't know your name. I can't see your tag. Come on. All right, random person I've never met before.
Do you want to pull the microphone out?
Sure. Do you have one?
Yeah, just pull it out.
Oh. All right, play Bob Barker here. All right, so say I'm a doctor. Every one of these scenarios I've actually lived through and had to be the joy of, okay? So this one is you're killing patients. So, all right, hey, you're the IT guy, right? What's your name? Okay. Hey, my son set up an NFS mount between my home computer and the one in my office, and I can't get my images anymore. Why? That's not working. I need to know.
You shouldn't.
You're killing patients here. You know that, right?
You don't.
I got to talk to the chair about this because you.
Why do you need?
No, I need it now. You understand? This is medicine. Do you help people? Do you save patients? I was in Nam. You know what I did in Nam? I killed people. What's your name? Kyle. Thank you very much, Kyle. And I'm not kidding. I really had that one. The guy actually wore camo scrubs, believe it or not. Quite true. All right. So basically, similarities. These are. This is stuff I won't dwell on it, but it's things that you always will see in every situation. If you walk in and you say, "I've been here before, done it before," I don't care if it's the same industry or the same, even the same company. If you're a high position, you don't know what you're doing yet. Nobody knows what they're doing yet. So you've got to learn, right? Remember, and we've always been taught this: learn, observe, know who to talk to, know what the deal is, right? What organizations, what laws you're dealing with. I have like 27 RSS feeds just for regulations, and my wife laughs at me because every morning it's the first thing, I wake up, I check on the baby. I check my RSS feed, so I'm changing her, it's just a way of life, as we all are. We're in an evolving field that will never stop learning in. And I do hope that, like me, that drives you to be one in this field, because you're always going to learn and you're going to be better every day. And know that, like I said, 80% of what we did before does not translate very well. All right, if you come from a non-healthcare field and you start talking to these people like you know what you're talking about, you're talking to a wall. All right. The only reason I have credibility in this field is because I grew up in this. I was teethed on X-rays and radiology and hospital information systems, and I've been in the worst of the worst closets. I've been in some ugly places. I've been threatened by doctors. I have actually had a doctor tell me after I put up a firewall, we stopped routing, and it wasn't actually me, it was in the department, stopped bridging AppleTalk over the router. All right. They had AppleTalk, they had DeckNet, and they had async bridging over the router. Well, not async, they had a different network, but and they turned off because they had to reboot this router 3 times a day, and he came and told me, he's like, you know what? This is an emergency room doctor. If you come in on my shift, I'm going to let you die. And so my next project was to put all of his Apple systems on IP, and it worked fine. And he came up, what I told about the death thing? It's off now. And he walked away. So, like I said, priorities, know your environment. Assistant chair. So that's why. So, like I said, find your sponsor. Just Security 101. Find someone who's top end who has at least an interest in IT and will listen to you about and they may not have full authority or on other people, but they're a voice of reason. Doctors, especially doctors and Medicare and the government side, people who have been there a long time, people who have a lot of initials behind their name, carry a lot of weight. And usually the ones that have the most initials are either really arrogant, but most of them are actually have realized they only are specialty knowledge people in one or two areas. And they're actually very willing to learn if you come at them very humbly and talk to them. Like I said, your big cog, add value, same stuff, and have a plan. Don't read Bruce Schneider's book and say, I'm going to fix this place. Okay? You're not British Telecom. All right? And then HIPAA. All right? Everyone says they're dealing with HIPAA. It's huge. It does not have definites in it. There's a lot of things that say, yeah, you do something like this, right? All right? And then high tech came out with the Reinvestment Act of 2009. It finally got codified in the final omnibus rule in 2013. All right, nobody has really read that. A lot of people say they have, but they really haven't. So you are dealing with law firms, and you're dealing with a lot of people that are making a lot of assumptions. And that gross negligence clause in there, that's how you get to hook people. All right, I have a hospital that I know very well. It's not one I've worked at. Their risk assessment was, what's the risk that we'll get audited? That won't pass OCR. But now you have tools now, right? OCR is coming after people, and on top of that, who else? What has high tech also done? The attorney generals can now come after you, right? Who wants to be governor more than anybody else in the world? The AG. All right, and they will do anything to protect their citizens, to throw it on a campaign commercial to trash their competitor. And so, those big, mean, greedy, insurance companies, for those of you who work insurance, I would find out any intelligence you can on that group. Because if the prosecutions are down, they'll probably come after you. Because they know they'll get the money. All right. I talked about BAs already. A lot of vendors say they have every answer in the book. And they come in and they just trash the place. They put in so many things that just don't talk to each other. And, the Big Four, and I'm sorry if I apologize for offending anybody, I have never seen the Big Four do anything but mess up a hospital. All right, or a federal institution. They come in with 12-year-olds off the bus, and there's a reason why E&Y's colors are black and yellow, okay? They pull the bus up, they let the kids out, and they say, here's a book, follow it. All right, and you have to deal with this. So, see, now everyone knows why, you should follow me on Twitter, because I talk like this all the time. All right, now there's Quahog Hospital I have on there. All right, so we're talking about providers, right? Providers, the people who have this have the most expensive part of this entire operation, and also have the least amount of money. I think you understand if you go in this environment, bills, they're drastically cutting back, and they're cutting back in places where it hurts, really, like nurses, lab staff, cleaning staff, and they have to meet JACO, which is the joint accreditation body that allows a hospital to actually operate, and that's a huge deal. All right, and the reason is, insurance payments are down, and why is insurance down? Because they're following the lead from Medicare and Medicaid. Okay, the American Affordable Care Act reduced payments in Medicare because that'll improve health insurance. That's how we're going to make health insurance more affordable. We're just going to pay less. Well, it doesn't really happen that way. And then on top of that, they throw in a caveat where it says, if you don't have a employee health record system, right, an EMR, we're going to pay you less. And if you get one, you have to meet these existing conditions. And this is actually one of the systems I actually oversee, is you have to meet all these conditions. And if you meet them, we'll give you, a little bit of money to help pay for that. But that little bit of money does not make up for the loss in revenue from, if they didn't do it at all. So a lot of doctors are in, like they don't know what to do. And on top of that, they have to buy these systems, right? So they're buying, everyone and their mother are throwing out one of these systems to buy, and they're cheap, and they're terrible, and they don't talk to each other, and they don't meet any regulations. And so what happens if they get breached? What happens if they have to start talking to each other through exchanges? No one knows that yet because they don't follow standards. And that's a huge tidal wave that the industry is not yet accepted that is coming. So all this money's been paid. We'll have to pay a lot more money to either fix it or replace it. And, you guys have to deal with it. They're understaffed. There's a lot of political agendas. Every doctor wants to be chair. Just like a lot of corporate America, everyone wants to be a boss. And I grew up in the Department of Radiology. I had about 2,500 machines. I had 61 attendings, which means I had 61 bosses. All of them wanted to be the one in charge of me, and they would give me conflicting orders just to cheese the other guy off. So that's fun. All right. Who's worked in hospitals again? All right. What's the black and white photo? Anyone have an idea? That's a PDP-11. My first job when I got there at this one hospital I worked at was I had to fix that. That was 2001. All right. Those things sent people to the moon. All right. I had a hard drive, the full height, 8-inch thick hard drive. That weighed about 15 pounds. It was great. And we used it for digital dictation. We replaced it eventually. That was one of the things I wanted to get rid of. That closet is actually very pretty. That's actually off sysadmin.com. If anyone wants to go there, sysadminday.com, I believe. That's actually one of the prettier ones. I've had places where the cables are so thick and so nested they actually rip the patch panels out of the wall, and I've lost floors. Like, the MRI machines aren't working. Why? Well, which one? All of them. We have 6. You go in, and it's just a sparking mess. It's great. And async. Who's worked with async before? Oh, I don't know. I pulled that off of the website. Yeah, light bulbs are. It may be cable management that may be installed in the future. And then there's async, right? We had a lot of async and a lot of DECnet when I got there, and we had async running to these old Macintoshes that we used for dictation. And they were the jump boxes. I don't really know how async works. It's this magic voodoo that we brought in the net techs that are 80 years old to come fix it. And so we said we're going to run it. We're going to route it over the IP network. Okay, we got to do it. We can't run these wires. The mice are literally chewing them. We can't fix it. We can't get it parts. So we got Cisco async boxes. Well, guess what? There's 6 flavors of async, and Cisco only talks 1. And everything we had only talked the other 5. So we were screwed. So, like I said, it sets up your initiatives. All right, audience participation time. Who here has worked in a hospital? I know you have. Come on. All right, this is a nicer one. All right. Hey, you remember that URL I asked you to put in, and you said you asked me about it, and I stopped talking about it.
The approval form hasn't gone through yet.
Okay. Well, I went to GoDaddy, and I got my URL, and it's using my patient order entry system that I built on FileMaker Pro.
The compliance manager has been notified.
Yeah, but my attending already approved it, and half the hospital's using it now.
This is when I run for the door.
Oh, and by the way, I load medical prelim reports in it, and I make medical cares on it. And we delete all the preliminary reports at 7 a.m. every day. That person is now practicing at Stanford Medical Center. He's actually a really good guy. Well, he's a radiologist. Radiologists don't like people. But yeah, they asked me about. I got asked about. You do this URL. I'm like, what's it for? And they stopped talking to me. I'm like, that's not good. And so I started hanging around the residence lounge because that's where all the mischief, action happens. And there is a Windows 98 computer that I had not seen before. And and then like 3 days later, I got I was on call and I got an emergency page from surgery. It said 3 rads is down. I'm like, what's 3 rads? And they're like, yeah, 3 rads is the patient order entry system we that got put up by one of the residents. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me call the resident who would have done this, because I knew exactly who would have done this. And I wake him up. I'm say, who the hell is 3 rads and what the hell are they calling me about it for? He's like, well, I'm not on shift. I'm like, guess what? You just made the IT world. Go fix it. And he rebooted. He walked in, rebooted the box, and it started working again. And so, again, a lot of compliance issues. The deleting reports. You can't delete reports. They're and I said, you got to take it down. Even the head of the hospital was like, you got, the non-doctor head was, you got to take it down. And they're like, you can't. Why? We already wrote a paper on it. We're presenting on it next week. And what's the paper on? It's on why hospitals are stupid for spending so much money on patient order entry systems when we could put it up really cheaply. He got laughed out of his talk, thank God. But it's just, these are the things you deal with, all right? You deal with the mad scientists. All right, and what are they like? I should speed this up probably. So, docs want to be left alone. I'm here to help patients. I'm here to research. I'm here to solve, cure cancer. I worked with a lot of brilliant minds that, worked in the different things like cures. I have a doctor that thinks he's going to cure schizophrenia in the next 5 years through medicine. I think he really will do it. I dealt with doctors that were figuring out how to keep your heart from going spherical on missions to Mars. Brilliant, like crazy stuff. Ben Carson, who was trying to figure out a way to back your brain up before you had surgery, so if you died, they could reboot you. All right, we couldn't get a sand big enough. But crazy stuff like that, right? They don't want to work. They don't want you to see you in their face at all, and they want their old stuff. Okay, we had an old DEC computer that was still from the 70s. That's still with the carpet. When they had carpet on data centers, the carpet was still under it because they had never moved it. They didn't know what it was. All right. You talk to them, medical analogies, right? Preventative care now can relieve excess expensive surgical needs later. If you talk to these people in surgical medical talk, it goes a lot farther. Nurses don't care. Techs don't care. You talk to them in a way that they've learned. It talks. The Analogies Project, I'm actually a very big fan of that. If you look up on Twitter, and if you want to add to that, they're always looking for people to add. They want the HIPAA cops to go away. And they want you to know your role. You are not a doctor. You're there to help them. And remember that. All right. You're not going to come in there with your guns blazing. You're there to help them. And just remember that. You're a consultant. All right. You're most likely not the smartest person in the room. This is Peter Agra. I had a meeting with him the day after I won the Nobel Prize in chemistry. And, and very nice guy. He actually treated me very civilly. But, you got to realize some of these are the smartest of the smart that you're going to deal with in these institutions. And they've been left in the little holes for a long time and treated like kings. So you got to deal with that. And like I said, the guy who's going to cure schizophrenia, we called him Dr. No. Because he wanted to give people cocaine until they died. Okay. And here's the biggest thing from working in a hospital. And I learned this from the chief resident at Stanford University, is we're scared. We're afraid that we're going to be found out to be the frauds we are. And remember that. Remember, even in our professions, and I feel this, I felt this when I got asked to talk, a lot of people don't feel that they belong. They don't feel like they have the ability or knowledge to do it, and especially when they take that next step. And doctors, especially in medical world, are taking that next step. And they're in charge of people. You're dealing with a 27-year-old kid that was working on cadavers. Now he's got to keep that person alive. They're scared to death. So they're going to act out. Remember when your 5-year-old gets mad because all of a sudden he has a little sister like mine does. Why are you acting out? They can't tell you, but they're scared. All right? Just remember that. All right, get the payer. This is actually the easiest of the one. Payers are insurance companies. They're most like corporate America, except they have a lot more regulation. They have money. They don't want to spend it. They don't want to spend any more than contemporaries. I've dealt with a lot of some of the Blues and some of other organizations, and they say, we do not want to be any more secure than our most closest competitor because they don't want to spend more money than them. All right? And I'm like, that's not what OCR will like to hear. And they're like, we don't care. because they think that everyone's equal when everyone is, up and down, and everyone is in different places. And so you got to have to talk to them, and you have to back up what you're saying is you have to meet this bar up here. And you got to, and it's going to be a continual conversation over a long period of time to get them here. If you've done corporate America, this is how it goes. You got to build trust and slowly work on that trust. And my wife's calling. I'm not kidding. All right, and sometimes they're part of provider organizations. Many of the major hospitals in America have their insurance companies, and I've dealt with many of them. All right, who wants to talk? We can skip this one since I think I'm running short in time. I got plenty of time? Lauren wants to talk. No, I don't. Hey, Lauren, come over here. For those who was wondering, Lauren audited one of my systems at one time, and so this is just payback. Hey, Lauren, about that control AC6 that you didn't like? Yeah. Hey.
SI6, what?
Yeah, SI6. Yeah, oh, good. Long story. All right, so we're in an elevator. Someone can do some boring music. Hey, we're doing that PCI thing, and someone said something about HIPAA. Do we really have to do that? And what does it mean? And how much is it going to do?
Yes, do it.
What's that mean?
Which part?
That HIPAA thing. What are we going to do about that? Oh, my floor's here. All right, that's your typical C-level conversation in insurance companies in the elevator. And they're going to ask you a question as a 50,000 word answer, and you won't have time to do it. So, like I said, normal corporate America, have your 30-second spiel ready, because that's what you got to do. All right. What do they want? They want audit life to be easier. All right. Insurance companies are amazingly regulated. Most insurance companies in this country can only make 3% profit. So if they make more than 3% profit, guess what? They're going on a spending spree, which means you should cash in as much as possible. And then they have regulations that are just crazy from states, from their own states, from other states, and they're in a constant state of audit. So if you can think of a way to know what audits to go through, know what's required of those audits, and make it easier on them, they will love you. They will actually be very happy to work with you. They don't want to get fined. They all know it's coming. And a lot of these insurance companies have actually cash set aside just for when it comes. And it's just this somewhere in Switzerland gaining, interest somewhere, and but they know it's coming. And like I said before, they don't want to stand out. They want to be with their contemporaries because they want that baseline, of security that they think everyone else has. So, and it's two things: they don't spend anymore, but also if they get yelled at, they think it's, well, Billy Boo Cross isn't doing that. They think it'll save them. Well, it's not, but they believe that. All right. Great movie. All right. No exec speak. Know how to put a straw man up to alter, and as I was told one time, the paradigm. I had a CEO say it the entire conversation, and I was like, is this a test? I don't know. All right, back up what you say, because this is corporate America is cutthroat. So if you just say we got to do it because we got to do it, you're not going to get anything. So you got to do it because of this OCR regulation is coming down, and they're going to audit us, right? We already have the bench audit coming down. We got to be ready for it. All right, let's back it up. Have weight behind your words. Professional to a point. Professionalism is what it is. ROI doesn't exist in security. I do not believe. I'm one of those people that doesn't believe that. If you do, that's fine. Back it up. But you got to find a way to make them think that. All right. All right. My current major world of work. The federal world. The government has in Medicare spends hundreds of millions of dollars and billions of dollars annually on paying out and on systems. The current CMS network has about 240 federal separate systems that do different things, from SharePoint to monitoring the effectiveness of care across hospitals. And each one needs to go through FSMA. How many people work with FSMA? All right, we'll have a hug session later. And lots of bourbon. All right. People in the healthcare, people in federal world are divided into three groups. People that really care and do a lot of hard work and try. That's about 5%. Then you have about 30% who are constantly working at home. And then you have the rest that just want to get through the day. All right. Because they know it's complicated and they don't want to, they're just getting a paycheck and they can't wait for retirement. They all have retirement clocks, and I have seen them. And these are people who are in their 20s. All right. Some of them, the ambitious ones, everything's a big deal. Everything's going to be done now because, you know, they're an ego trip that they can push a contractor around. You know, like a big boy like a General Dynamics or even a little company. You know, they're on ego trips. They want it done now. They want it done yesterday. And another thing I think about is, do you think when Congress passes a law, they actually talk to these people? Nobody at Medicare was at all consulted, or Health and Human Services was consulted when the Affordable Care Act came out. Not one. All right. The only people that were consulted were insurance companies, farm companies, you know, anybody who had the money to splash on Congress. And so when these laws come out, they throw them over the wall, and they expect them to be done, you know, immediately. The one system I was on, and I was not on a part of it at that one time. It was part of the Part D program, came out in 2004. They realized 6 months before go live, they had to have some way to handle early retirees. Or, you know, retirees that have special drug coverage from like unions or you know, higher end insurance, you know, beneficiary type stuff. And so they said, well, they threw over contract to this one company I worked at and said, you need to build a system in 5 months that is built on top of a 3-tier web architecture we haven't finished yet. And has to be able to, you know, properly process about $4 to $5 billion in transactions safely a year. And that's all they gave you. And they did it, and they actually did a very, very good job of it. But, you know, it's that kind of over-the-wall mentality that these people deal with. So they're all under shell shock all the time. So, you know, that's what you deal with in this world. They don't know what laws are passed. A lot of people have no idea about the new HIPAA laws. The ACA, you know, the Affordable Care Act is what is that one image I showed you of the, you know, back in the beginning with the guys carting all these papers. That's the ACA. I know people said they read it. They haven't read it. I'm sorry. They got the, you know, they got the little book that, you know, breaks it down. I haven't read it. I've read parts of it, and I understand parts of it, but not that much of it. And there's carve-outs, right? Healthcare.gov. All right. I may or may not have worked for an organization that's actually been involved in healthcare.gov. And does anyone know why healthcare.gov has, you know, been very quiet lately? Like, there's been nothing about, like, breaches or anything like that, if there have been any breaches, or they don't talk about them at all. It's because healthcare.gov is immune from HIPAA. They built that into the law because they knew if it came out, there would be hell to pay. All right? And of course, there's no breaches. You know, even though I've heard of people doing simple SQL injection attacks that have pulled like 700,000 records that may be talking to you in this room right now. That's right. No one dies at Disney World. No one dies in healthcare or Medicare. Thank you for the setup. And also, here's you know, like I said, these things get thrown up all the time. They get won sometimes possibly by dubious commands. I think a lot of people really do try to really really a lot of these contractors have a lot of people who are really dedicated and they really try, but they are put up with a lot of pressure. Like I said, back to healthcare, they didn't have requirement lockdown until the July before it went live. Okay, anyone who's done system development, so that's insane. That's absolutely crazy. And the month before it went live, they said, well, instead of, they wanted to do authenticate every session to go in who got into it. And that's one of the big reasons why I started crashing. The things you learn. All right. Who wants to do this? Who wants to play the security person for a federal contract? Come on. These are getting laughs now. Come on. You'll be famous on the interwebs. Don't make me. All right. This is the last one, I promise. Dan? All right, Dan. Adam. Have we met before? No, we haven't. Okay. All right, Dan. Have you ever dealt with in the federal world before, or FISMA? Okay. All right, Dan. Hey, we have this new system that's coming up. I want to take it live in 4 months, but the change control board says I have to have all this documentation. Do we really need to have that?
We'll let the customers beta test.
Can you give me a price on that?
$20 million.
I have 10,000.
$5 million.
Can we amortize that over 12 years?
3 months.
3 months. Oh, we'll work on that one. All right. Well, hey, can you write the documentation anyways? Because they say we have to have it, and they won't let me go live with that. And, I really want the system to go live because there's a promotion coming up, and I can't deal with that guy over like 3 cubes over. He just freaks me out.
Can it be 140 characters or less?
As long as it gets done.
You got it.
All right. Great. Thank you. That was nice, Dan. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. These people who do these systems, they aren't IT people. All right. There's a system that has that I'm working on, and the total staff on it is about 25, and 6 of them are PMs. There's 3 from the government. There's 2 from a contractor who's hired by the government to oversee the contractor who's building the system, and there's 2 from there's 1 or 2, whatever's left, is for the contractor. And I'm like, and literally I said on Thursday, I'm like, do you guys just have make task orders for each other just to make task orders or something? What do you do? And the answer was just too ridiculous to even mention here. But yeah, everyone's busy. Every Fed will tell you, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. Whether it's on Amazon.com or they're filling out loads of unnecessary paperwork, they'll always be busy. They don't know why you're doing it. They don't know why you're doing a risk assessment. They don't, risk assessment. They do not know why you're doing a pen test. They don't. Why are you doing this? Well, the regulations say you have to. What regulations? The federal regulations. We have federal regulations on that? Yeah. When did those come out? 2002. But that was 12 years ago. They still apply? Yeah. So do. Yeah. This is a real conversation I've had. And so you're dealing with people that they only live in their own world of what they're trying to accomplish, and just try to get through that day and what they need to do. So that's what you're dealing with. All right, you got to know these regulations very thoroughly, because the people above you do not. They will not even bother to learn, and they will ask you, hey, why do we have to do this? Okay, because Lauren said so. Go talk to her. Here's her text. But there's the NIST regulations, right? And there's HIPAA, and you just got to go through all these regulations and these sub-regulations and everything they point out, which is the 800 series special publication. And then there's the federal enterprise architecture, and there's you have to know this stuff, at least where to look really quickly, because they're going to ask for the information and they want it very quickly. So just have it at hand. All right. They want the ATO, the authority to operate, a little magical piece of paper signed in Medicare world by the CIO, and if they don't have it, they can't technically go live. All right. And there's a string of things you need to have, including an audit, passing an audit and a penetration test before you get it, and a lot of paperwork. All right. Go speak. How many people have talked to Govies a lot? All right. They think they're in the military. Everything's an acronym, and they will not stop to explain what they mean. All right. And all right, I work for an organization called CMMI. That's my contractor. What does CMMI mean to everybody else? The maturity model for SDLC? No. This is Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation. I won't say that on live internet. Actually, they actually are trying, believe it or not. But it's actually a very dynamic place. It's actually a great place to be at. But they have an acronym for everything. LC. They keep on talking about LC. It's legal counsel, right? And that's where I'm at. The level above them is GC, Governance Council. Why can't we just keep it the same acronym? I don't know, but you got to know both of them. All right, and so you got to live through this soup, and at the end of every decently made documentation of federal security is an acronyms list that is usually 8 or 9 pages long, and it's a treasure trove of happiness. All right. There's a form for it, and there really is. Like I said, I alluded to in my little back and forth. The average system needs about 70 documents to go live, and these are not little things. We're talking about full SDLC. We're talking about configuration management plans, change management plans, full security plans. For some of the systems I had would run 300 pages each. So, like I said, there's a lot of writing. There's not a lot of time to do it. But you got to get it done. And if you don't have it, you don't get your blessed ATO. All right. Who has time in this world? Nobody. Guess what? The Govy don't care. When I call a meeting, you better be there. And I don't care if it's your kid's birthday or if or what it is. I'm calling a meeting. Your schedule is at their whim. And even if you're on multiple government projects, they will fight. They will tell you, you can't miss my meeting. And so you just have to be prepared for that. They're in charge and they think they're in charge. And so be ready for it. And I said, all optives do it differently. Optives are operational divisions, right? And Health and Human Services, you have, an HHS, you have CMS, which is one, Social Security Administration, which is one. All these different groups that they're called operational divisions, just another acronym. Lauren's falling asleep. I got to wake her up. All right. Back to the end, right? Everybody's similar. They're all healthcare, but they're not really similar. All right. You got to remember that. I've seen so many people come in, and they've lived in the hospital their whole life, and they come into the federal world, insurance world, and they think they know what's happening. Then they don't. And it's a very painful death spiral to watch. You're not trusted. Like I said, you think what's going on is going on, but it isn't. But you know what? Like Homer, you get back up. All right? All right, we'll get back to my first slide. Why did I spell protocol wrong? All right. I had a department chair, a guy I met who I can't remember what hospital he's at now. He's moved on, but he wrote an entire medical book, and he spelled protocol wrong intentionally throughout the entire book. And this was a book on basically non-interventional radiological surgery, where basically they were doing like putting stents into veins, running through an MRI machine to cauterize the vein to keep it from blowing out. Little things that you should probably pay attention to, right? And protocols are a term that's thrown around a lot in hospitals, if you are not aware of that. A protocol is, everything's a protocol. I mean, a protocol is, it could be, take the cap off the needle, fill a needle, inject it, don't touch the cap again and throw it into the waste box, right? That's a protocol, and they're everywhere. And So, but people tend to live them blindly, and I do it myself. Everyone else who comes in these organizations do it themselves. I've done it before. I've done it before. I've done it before. And so the reason why he did this is the last paragraph is like essentially read that now that you know everything that you're supposed to do in sequence, pay attention, because you went through this the whole damn book and didn't realize this word is wrong. Pay attention, because just because the book says to do it this way, your gut says to do it this way, someone else says to do it this way, doesn't mean it's right. So just like I said, pay attention. And that's my disjointed conversation. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you have questions, I am here. And that's my obligatory thank you. So, does anybody have anything to say? Or do you want another? Go ahead. It was actually intended to be. Has anyone seen the Great Hidden Gorilla video? All right, where the people are throwing a ball around, right, and and then they ask you, how many times the ball's been tossed, and at the end they ask you, well, what'd you think of the gorilla? And you're like, what gorilla? That's where that came from. It was actually intentional from the get-go, and it was inspired by that little short clip, and because a lot of times, I mean. There was an issue with doctors that will not deviate from protocol. They won't, and it has cost lives. And that generation of doctors actually slowly getting older, and they're leaving the profession, so that the younger generations are a little bit more, finger on the pulse. But it's just a reminder of that, and that's not to say you shouldn't get surgery. There's a lot of very good doctors out there. Don't get sick in July. And if you don't know that why, then you can ask me later. Anybody else? Same thing. It has, yes. Actually, up until about 10 years ago, anesthesiologists didn't have a checklist. It was not a common thing. I know the guy who patented that process. And you're like, when did you patent it? It's like, 2001. Like, okay. Before it was like you walked in, okay, how much do you weigh? How old are you? How much do you drink? All right, we'll figure it out. Yeah. So, and that's just, I say, one thing about protocols is the human body is, and this is a tangent, the human body is not black and white. This is a totally subjective world that doctors have to live in, and they rely on a lot of their experience. And so when they get codified into protocols, that's when some issues can happen. Some of the older docs don't want to do protocols because they're doctors. Then some doctors blindly follow it, but it's a mix, And I'm not a doctor, so I'm never going to pretend to do it. Trust me. If I say, I'm, clear, and you wake up and you see me with paddles, it's better just to die then, because I'm going to screw something up bad. I'll probably backwards and zap myself. I hope so. The new ones do. I'll still get that wrong. I'll pretend I'm on ER. I'm like George Clooney. Back away, Don't look at my bald spot, please. All right. Anybody else? Yes. I've had to deal with it a little bit, but only an ancillary thing. So, yeah. I'm lucky. Like I said, I'm not a hacker. I'm not. I'm one of those guys that pushes policy. That looks, I'll tour the place. I'll talk to people. I'll try to figure out what situations go in, right? And I know I probably lost a lot of credibility here, but yeah, I luckily have been able to stay out of that world. Yeah, I've been Jayco before. That's a fun place to be. Yeah, if anyone wants to Jayco, ask me later. All right, anybody else? Nobody? I know Lauren has a question. How'd I do, Lauren? Did I do great? Oh, thank you. See, I feel better now already. I don't feel like Dr. Nick. All right. Anyways, as always, my Twitter's up there if you guys want to talk to me, as talk to anybody in BSides, anyone who presents, or anybody that's sitting beside you that may have an answer to any burning question you have. That's what we're here for, is to learn from each other. So I want to thank everyone, and I want to thank Lauren and Ed and everyone for letting me have the chance to talk to you and fly from Baltimore. And get really fat on barbecue and miss my run for this morning. So I appreciate it all. So thank you all very much.